Welcome to Last Letters Podcast, a show which asks each guest a simple question. If tomorrow was your final day on Earth, what would your last letter be? It began as a self-reflective question from the show's host, Jeremy Locke. A world traveler and retired Air Force photojournalist, Jeremy is 7-time Military Photographer of the Year and a Bronze Star recipient who has always wondered about his portraits. What would this person's advice to the world be?
Welcome to Last Letters. I'm your host, Jeremy Locke. Joining us today is KEVIN HODES. KEVIN is a 3-time best-selling author with a 4th on the way, executive producer in numerous documentaries, earning him a few Tellys and Emmys. KEVIN enjoys giving back to many community organizations with his primary focus on the American Fallen Soldiers Project and Folds of Honors. KEVIN is also the founder of Swipe It. Welcome, KEVIN.
Well, thanks for having me.
How are you today?
Today's a great day. I'm here, I'm having fun, and life is good.
So tell me about the author, KEVIN.
I've always wanted to write a book, and one of my clients, he had a book, and I was looking at it, and I go, who, how, and he gave me a number, and I called him up, and the next thing you know, I was in Florida on a set. It wasn't even for the book yet. I was on a set, and it was with Christy Frank. She was on one of those apprentice shows with Donald Trump. And next thing you know, I'm sitting there and she's interviewing me. And then that went out on ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox and Bravo. In that process, they were, hey, we're going to work on this book. So being a co-author of a book with Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul.
Oh, nice.
And so we did the Soul of Success. And there was a volume 1 and a volume 2. And I happened to be in volume 2. And it was a wonderful experience being able to be connected forever with Jack Canfield. And then, of course, it rolled into co-authoring a book with Richard Branson and Nito Cobain and Dr. Ivan Meisner. And then it rolled into the 3rd book with a 2nd series with Richard Branson still and some other people. And now the 4th book, which is going to be coming out here in the next few months, will be with Brian Tracy. And Brian Tracy, he's spoken over 500 million people all over the world. He's a dynamite man. We were in his house and I said, hey, if there was a book of all of your books, what book would be the best to give to my kids? He walks over to the shelf, he grabs it, signs it, kids' names, and it was called No Excuses. Having the opportunity to be in someone's home, having dinner, walk over to the bookshelf, grabbing stuff like that. I mean, who has that opportunity?
He knew exactly what book to go for.
Oh, for sure. It was great. Him and his wife are just wonderful people. I love being around people that want to help others. Somehow or another, you kind of gravitate to those people. But at the end of the day, I became a best-selling author.
What's your 4th book going to be about?
It's going to be called Leverage. And Brian is an amazing individual with talking about how to leverage business knowledge. Most of these books are collaborations. Normally, the collaborations of these other books are with 20 or 30 other people. This one's, it's less amount of people, which I really, really like. So I think there's 7 other people in the book.
How does that work out? You write a little bit, he writes a little bit.
Well, each chapter will be the individual. And so when these books come together, they're looking for people that have knowledge and expertise. So the knowledge and expertise for me within the credit card processing world is sought after from people all over the country. So it was only natural, when Jack was looking for somebody to have knowledge of financial stuff in the credit card processing, boom, I was that person. Richard Branson and all these other individuals in these other books, they want experts. They don't want somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about. And they surely don't want to put their name associated with somebody that is just some fly-by-night organization. I've been doing this crazy credit card processing for 23 years. So I've seen a thing or two.
So what is Swipe It?
Swipe It, national merchant service provider, setting people up to accept payments, credit cards, digital banking, things of that nature that give them the ability to make themselves more profitable by using someone that knows what they're doing. We've been a referral-based company for over 20 years.
How'd you get into that?
Man, you're really going deep on me here.
Oh, this is nothing yet.
Yeah. It's a strange story, and it was by total accident. I surely didn't go to college to be the credit card guy, as I call myself. What happened is my wife and I, she's from Colorado, and we moved to Colorado. And so while we were in Colorado, we got married. I was looking around in the paper for something else to do. And this is back in 97. And I ran across this company that was based here in Dallas. And that company would help people find buyers for their business. I would go to the locations within a 5-state region of where I was. So I was going to Idaho, Kansas, Wyoming, New Mexico, and I would have a fax. Believe it or not, there was something called a fax machine.
What is this thing you call fax?
Yeah, right. So I'd get 20 business owners that were interested in finding a buyer for their business. I'd set up an appointment to go see them. I'd sit with them for 3 to 4 hours. I would analyze their business, see what the value of that business was. I'd tell them there's a fee structure. I'd collect money from them. I would take pictures with a Polaroid camera. It was insane. That's all we could do at that time, right? You know, I didn't have a fancy camera. You had a fancy camera.
So wait, so you had a fax machine?
Yes.
Polaroid camera.
There it is.
I'm picturing you driving to these states with an 8-track, cassette player in your car.
I was listening to books on tape. One of the most influential books on tape I ever listened to was the guy that he has the world record for selling the most Cadillacs. His name is Joe Girard.
Joe Girard.
Joe Girard. So I would listen to this. You know, a lot of people, they'll listen or read books and they think that they can learn everything about life reading one thing. It's not true. You have to pick up bits and pieces. So there's 2 things that I do today that I still do because of listening to that book on tape. I will never tell you what it is.
Why won't you tell me what it is?
Well, 2 things.
Oh, so you are going to tell
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
Okay.
Here we go. I'll let the cat out of the bag.
Believe me, it's just between you and I.
Yeah. Oops. There's nobody here, right? One is after I have a meeting with somebody, I always write a little note. And that little note, it's not just any note. I actually do something really special for those meetings and thank people when I have a meeting because I want to be remembered. I've only applied this when I do business in the credit card processing world. I wasn't doing it back then, but I remembered it. So when I started my own company, I implement this. I had crane paper, little fold up, said thank you on it, and personal note to that individual in a special way. I'd close it, lick it shut. I actually melt wax. And then I have a stamp with the S for swipe it. And then I stick a couple stamps on it and hopefully it makes it there. And I put my business card back in there as well. So like even when they open it, even if they had my business card before, I'm still sending another one. And then of course they get that and maybe they do business with me or not, but I'm always top of mind. So that was one thing I always did. The second is at the end of meetings, I always say to people, thank you so much for being a client. We appreciate that. But tell me, why did you do business with me?
Oh, so you're asking for their input back.
People will tell you how much they appreciate you or looking to solve their issues and problems, and it reinforces the reasons why they actually asked me to be there. Not everybody retains information, right? But I'm now getting feedback from those people of, so why did you decide to work with us?
That's one of the things my wife does, and she is a big proponent of. After meeting with somebody or doing a little business, she literally takes the time, sits down, and writes a handwritten message. The response and feedback from that is tenfold.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't believe people don't do it more often.
Why aren't we doing it more often?
Well, because we're trained to just go, okay, here it is. Do you want it? No? Okay, well, usually they say, oh, I want to think about it. Nobody wants to think about anything. They want to think about where their next coffee is, their next lunch is, and they're done. They're finished. They're out of there.
That's like a simple reminder of...
This is, hey, listen, I appreciate everybody that becomes our client, 100%. People don't realize that I'm very hands-on in the company. I'm calling, texting, emailing people. They're calling, texting, emailing me. People Facebook messaging me. They're LinkedIn messaging me. They're coming at me at all these different angles. I don't care how they contact me. I just want to be able to be that resource for them to process their credit cards. And I want them to know that we're a different company. Most people don't realize that we're a different company. They don't understand the involvement that we are in the whole process. People look at credit card processing as this piece of paper, right? It's just, I can buy another piece of paper. No, there's a level of, for example, if people have a financial planner, that financial planner is probably pretty special to them, right? Because they're doing things with your money for the future. Would you talk to your next door neighbor? Hey, Sally, how are you? It's great. Hey, listen, what's your tip for the day for all that financial planning stuff you're doing for me? Well, I read in the paper today that Kellogg's Frosted Flakes are the best thing to buy today. Really? Let me get out there and get some. No, you wouldn't talk to your neighbor about financial planning. You want to talk to experts. And that's the difference between most organizations. Everybody thinks that they're special in some way. Well, if you can't portray how special you are, that's why people say they want to think about it. It's their way to get out. Nobody's thinking about anything. If a car is being sold and you're sitting at the car dealer, you're sitting there and the guy goes, oh, well, I want to think about this. You go, what do you want to think about? You already showed up. You took the time to sit there, go through the process, try the car out, drive it, sit in it. And they're trying to get you to get it in your driveway so you can really picture it at your house, right? That's their goal. Hey, go ahead and take it for the day, What's the percentages of the people that are going to, oh, no, I don't like it. They know. Listen, these are sales techniques. The key is that I don't want to just sell people. I want to solve their problems. And by solving problems, we create long-term relationships, and everybody doesn't feel like they got taken advantage of. And our clients always feel that they're always working with a professional, someone that really cares about them, because we do. I don't know how many times I get a phone call at 10 o'clock at night, and they're like, I can't believe you answered your phone. You need help, right? Well, that's what we do. I don't know how many times they'll call our customer service. I work with every single processing company across the country. All of these processors, we have probably 10,000 people at every one of these processors. Well, anybody can call the 800 number and spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours trying to go through it. Oh, what's your merchant number? Verify your home address.
Right. We all love to do that.
Yeah, right. Instead, would you rather have a 3-minute phone call with somebody who knows how to solve that problem? Or do you want to go through the pain of sitting through an hour phone call, getting frustrated and going, oh, this company's just like everyone else? That's why people work with us. They don't have to worry about that stuff. I love it. 23 years, maybe too long. I don't know.
No, you still got fire in your eyes. I see it.
I don't know how to stop, quite honestly.
Okay, Kevin,
I really don't.
Take me back. Here you are. Fax machine.
Yeah.
Polaroid camera. 8-track.
I still had New York plates on my car, too.
8-track tape. Listening to audiobooks.
Yep.
How did you get into it?
The company that I was doing this for, I wound up becoming one of their top sales guys, making great money. And then I get a call from the guy who was technically the manager here in Dallas. And he goes, hey, Kevin, are you sitting down? And I go, yeah, of course I'm sitting down. What's going on? He goes, we're going to be on 60 Minutes this weekend. And I go, what? What the hell? What do you mean, me? Not me. He goes, no, not you. The company. I didn't want any bad press. I have honesty and integrity, and my name is worth something. So, of course, I didn't want to be involved with that. So immediately I watched it and I go, ooh, this is not good.
In your head, you're already thinking it's bad connotation?
Oh, for sure. 60 Minutes.
That's
when
true.
you get a knock on the door, hey, I'm Harry Reasoner with 60 Minutes and we want to talk to you. That's not the guy you want to talk to.
It's not about sunshine and rainbows?
No, surely not. No unicorns in there either. So I'm going to tell you that, I said, oh my God, what am I going to do? Well, this guy that I was talking to, he goes, well, I'm going to get in that credit card processing business. And I go, you mean those stupid little credit card machines I look at all these businesses? He goes, yeah, pretty good money in it. And at the time there was 20-something years ago. Now the margins have shrunk down to nothing. That's how I Googled someone in Denver. And then I started working for this individual in Denver. And when I went in to interview with him, he goes, you're going to be running my company. You're going to be training my staff. You're going to be one of the best guys I've ever had working for me. And I looked at him and I go, me? And he goes, yeah, you. And that's exactly what happened. 6 months later, I was now working for him. But then I realized I didn't like his code of ethics. And then in the process, I was talking to the guy back here in Dallas. He goes, I can't believe what you're doing. I don't understand how you're doing this. It's amazing. Come to Dallas. We'll do it together. Came to Dallas. My wife, Sarah, was like, where? Dallas? I don't want to go to Dallas. It's so hot. We came. I didn't know anybody. I knew one person. We started up this organization. And then as things progressed, I realized all these people always needed me. So I walked away. That individual and I stayed friends until he passed away about 4 years ago. He was a good guy. He just needed me. And unfortunately, I didn't need him. You grow as a person. And then when you realize you don't need certain things, sometimes you just need a little smack in the back of your head. That slap in the back of my head was my father saying, they need you. You don't need them. Being on my own since 2001. So right after 9/11 is when I went completely on my own. And it was rough. There's no question. We've had our electricity turned off. I've lived in my car when 1988, when I lived in New York. There were times in the life that weren't always rosy, but we did whatever we could to survive, because that's what New Yorkers do. We don't stop. We're fighters.
So you're from New York?
Yeah, if you haven't figured that out yet, yeah. So I was born in Brooklyn. And
well, now you're like, Brooklyn?
Yep, I was born in Brooklyn. I lived out in Wantagh, New York for a period of time. My parents divorced when I was very, very young. I think I was 1. I have to find that out. Maybe 1, 2. I'm not sure. My father's Jewish. My mother's Jewish. My father remarried a Catholic woman, and she converted to Judaism. My mother remarried a Southern Baptist, and she converted and is now a Southern Baptist. We moved to Kansas City because my stepfather worked for TWA. I was sexually abused by our neighbor, and I didn't know what that really meant. But
what age were you then?
2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, 5th grade. Actually, it started 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. And what happened was I was visiting my father back on the summers, because we would fly back. I flew for free for TWA, so we'd fly all the time. And I was sitting at the table, and I said, hold on, before we have dinner, I'd like to say grace. My father, being the Jewish man he was like, okay, go ahead. And then, of course, we talked about Jesus and things of that nature. And what happened was while I was living with my mother, I was going to Bible study. And I was supposed to be going to Hebrew school. So next thing you know, I'm living with my father. And it's 6th grade and on. So I've always said to people, I go, how Jesus saved me, because Jesus saved me from being sexually abused. So God works in mysterious ways, right? I wasn't really saved by Jesus because I'm Jewish. I just happened to move back to New York to get away from that, which I didn't know what that really was. 6th grade and on, I'm living with my father. So I lived half of my life with my mother.
And that's where the abuse took place, was in Kansas.
In Kansas City. And then I moved back to New York and lived the rest of the other time during a time that you would live with parents with my father. I learned from them, between 2 sets of parents, different things about life. You absorb things. So it was an interesting time.
What'd you learn from your mother's side?
My mother never worked, and she always was a homemaker. So I learned about how does a homemaker, and I got to see that. My stepfather worked 2 jobs. He had a carpet cleaning business, and he worked for TWA as a mechanic. He did whatever he could do, but I saw hard work ethics as a young child of how to do things and treat people the right way. And then, of course, while you're going to Bible study, you learned about God, and you learned about Jesus, and you learned about the Old Testament, you learned about the New Testament. I see things a little differently. My mind of how I envision religion is much different than most people. I don't necessarily believe that you have to be one thing for everything. I think that if you listen and take in information and make your own decisions, you can make sometimes the right decisions. But God is watching. Something is there. And they are, or she or he is pushing us to hopefully do the right things as we get older. So now I'm living with my father. Things are going great. Next thing you know, I'm going to Hebrew school, and I had my bar mitzvah, and I go to college to become a chef, because that's what I am, a chef by trade. And my first job out of college, I go to this place called Great Gorge Mountain View Resort. I'm living there. I'm working there. And there was a guy there, can't say his name, I won't say his name, who introduced me to things that I shouldn't have been doing. And I was experimenting. Next thing you know, I was doing things I shouldn't be doing. Drugs. And the hotel closes. I had just purchased a car. My car payment was $277.72. I couldn't afford the car payment. I was moving the car around so I wouldn't have the car repoed. I was glad that I was away from the drugs, right? Because who knows where that would have led me down a path. I was actually with this individual in Washington Heights, in the area where it's called Spanish Harlem in New York. I remember going upstairs with people with machine guns, and we were getting drugs. And I'm like, where am I? What am I doing?
What's going through your mind?
I'm just like, I'm going to get paid. You know, I was like, I've got to do things to get paid.
So you were selling drugs?
I wasn't selling. I was getting ready to. That was going to be the next thing. I was being groomed for that next step. You know, I don't know. You don't automatically walk into the situation to be sexually abused. You get, you know, kind of groomed into those situations. And then when you're separated from it, that's when you go, I guess that wasn't right. Fast forward many years into the future, and I'm at this place where I was working. The place closes down. I'm out of a job. I had to stay in Jersey to get my unemployment benefits. So I was living kind of in the car, I was surfing on people's couches. Finally got a job back in New York City. I was away from the drug dude. I was away from bad practices, trying to get myself together. I'm still 19 here. I graduated from high school when I was 17. I graduated from college at 19. I guess I was 20 when I was let go at the job. I can remember the numbers. It's hard to keep track of everything.
And you're a numbers guy.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I'm a numbers guy. Well, in my own mind, for my own stuff, there's certain things that we want to kind of suppress.
Right.
But only in the past 10 years have I realized that I was really sexually abused. I never really thought about it. You know, there's a lot of people that you see them on the news. The reason he shot and killed all his neighbors is because he was beaten as a child, or he was sexually abused, or he lived in poverty. He didn't know anything else. I've never been that individual. I always get up,
brush yourself off,
start over, whatever you got to do, right, to survive.
Can I ask you a question? Being groomed. So throughout last letters, we had another individual who used the exact words groomed and was sexually abused. Can you talk to me about being groomed?
It's the strangest thing. I don't know how to explain it. 10 years ago, I was scammed for a lot of money from an individual that knew exactly how to push my buttons. And that individual, obviously, that's what they do. They know what they're doing. So they know how to push buttons. They know psychological ways to persuade people to do certain stuff. And the best of the best get scammed. You just don't know where it's coming from. But when it happens, now in the future, you are always one eye going, wait a minute, let me put the brakes on this. And this isn't a, I got to think about it moment. This is real life going, there's something in my spidey sense is going, right. Something's wrong here. But when you're groomed, everything is just seeming so awesome. The allure of making extra money, the allure of doing certain things, whether you're into the drugs, right? Drug dealers don't just go, hey, I'm going to be a drug dealer today. What do you want to buy? No, they were doing it first. And then they get kind of into the world and they meet other people. And then they figure out how it works. And then they go, I could do that. I could use an extra $50K, $100K, $1 million, whatever it is, however much money that they would make from selling drugs. You don't just go, hey, I'm going to be the credit card guy, right? You know, technically you could say I was groomed to be the credit card guy. I kind of fell into the business by speaking with an individual who happened to say, you're going to be everything. You're going to be awesome at this business. I want you working for me. What did he do? He kind of groomed me to work for him, to train me, to do certain things. So everything and anything in life, we're being groomed all the time. We just don't realize what the repercussions of what those grooming tactics may be in whatever it may be. You could be grooming me for podcasting. I don't know. Am I getting heavy on you or what?
No, this is great.
Yeah. I think a little different than most other people. I apologize for that.
No,
right up front.
No, there's no apology at all. I mean, this is fascinating to learn. You know, I knew this businessman to hear and sit across from you and talk about these kind of issues are amazing. When did you realize about this sexual abuse?
I was doing a leadership class through the Chamber of Commerce in Frisco. And there was a woman there that was talking about sexual abuse, and it was for kid to kid. I was like, wow, they call that something. There's a name for that. I didn't know. I never really thought about it that way. I talked to her thereafter. I was like, that was me, but I don't want to be labeled. I've never want to be labeled. I'm not the guy that's going to be sitting back going, woe's me, you know, crying. I've never cried over this. I've never put a lot of emphasis on what it is. I think it just made me a stronger individual to open my eyes to things. Unfortunately for my mom and my stepdad, they would come to visit me here. They would ask me about that individual. And I had to actually say, hey, Mom, listen, I have to tell you something. I don't really want to talk about that individual. And that individual, she was like taken back. You know, it's not something I was ever probably going to tell my mom. I still haven't told my father and stepmother. They don't know.
But it was years and years afterwards that you actually realized.
Yeah. You know, I was, well, how old are you in third, fourth, and fifth grade, right? I was an adult. I was 40-something years old when I'm sitting in a leadership. You know, there was a panel of people, and they were all talking about their nonprofits. and we were trying to figure out what they did. And that one really struck a chord with me.
Yeah, resonated with you.
Yeah, it hit a lot of times when you're speaking with somebody, a keyword comes up that really triggers something and you go, wait a minute. And that's exactly what happened with that. That nonprofit is not around anymore, but I learned something about myself. And she even said, she goes, you're a very successful business owner. I would never have even thought or known. And I said, well, I'm sure there's probably a lot of other people like me that just don't talk about it, and they have better things to be worrying about. But letting others know that, pay attention, open your eyes. If you think that it's uncomfortable or something isn't right, step back, take a look at it, do some research, because now we've got the internet. We could find out information about what grooming is. We could find out about what people are doing to groom people and put them in bad places for their own sexual needs or money needs. You know, there's scammers out there that we can do informational searches on. There's just more resources now. But there's no way I'm going to sit back and go, woe's me. It's not Kevin. It's never going to happen.
So what was life like after living at home?
Yeah. Well, when you are going to college, there's always people that will come to the college when they know you're graduating to try and recruit you to go work at specific places. One of those is Disney. Disney is huge about going to food service places to try and recruit people to go work in Disney. I wasn't comfortable going to work for Disney. It was too big of a company for me. I didn't want to work there. So I took this place. He graduated from the college that I went to. He came back and he was like, listen, I graduated from here. Come work where I'm working. And I felt more comfortable in that situation. Go there, working there, living on the premises. I was living with Dominicans. The Dominican Republic, I learned what Dominicano Romo was. I didn't know what it was. It was this very dark rum. It was pretty good. I'm not much of a drinker, but I remember having some of it. You'd be working, you know, the guy goes, hey, you want to try a little perico? And perico in Spanish is cocaine. I had never done it before. I don't even remember really the effects of it, but I wasn't like, you know, this cokehead or anything. I was just dabbling in it. And then next thing you know, he's like, hey, take a ride with me. Take a ride. We were in northern New Jersey. We take a ride to Manhattan. Here we are. We park. And then it was like, hey, how's it going? And hey, this is my buddy Kevin. Hey, yeah. You know, and you're looking around and, you know, this wasn't one machine gun. This was like 20.
Really?
Yeah. This was like door, inside the door, on the other side of the door, up the steps. Guy standing there, up another step, next level. You get to the fourth level, you walk in and you see people in there like packaging and doing. I mean, it was really weird.
Like the movies.
Basically. Yeah, absolutely. I don't remember people being naked though. You know, the movies are always naked, right? I don't know. Maybe I really wasn't paying attention to too much of what was going on with that. But I get up there and the guy's like, hey, he's told me a lot about you. I didn't want to say his name because guy might still be around. For all I know, he could be like some bigwig. I don't know. I don't want to go there, right?
Right.
You want some? Try this. And I was like, oh, okay. We leave. And the next thing you know, we're packaging. But I was never actually collecting monies. I was just kind of being groomed. And then the hotel closes up. And then, of course, people are separating and going their own ways. So I had choices to make. And unfortunately, I had a choice because I needed to pay for my freaking car insurance was like $4,000 a year. Back then, I was barely making $20K a year probably. You know, my father was all mad at me. He says, I told you not to buy that car. You didn't need to be buying a new car. What are you, crazy? I think my interest rate on that car was 12% or something.
Jeez.
It was ridiculous. You know, they truly took advantage of me. Car was like $13,000. It was a white Pontiac Grand Am. And if you remember, the commercials were Pontiac, driving excitement.
You hear the thunder, the call of the road. Whether it's the roar of an available turbo or 16-valve engine, Grand Am is sheer driving excitement. Get on the Pontiac and ride, Pontiac ride. And now, with $400 back direct from Pontiac, you can really cash in on Grand Am excitement. Get on the Pontiac, rebuild excitement.
It had the white rims. It was the GT version. So it was the 6-cylinder. It was the shittiest car on the planet. I mean, it was like the worst car. It had a Buick engine in it, and you could be driving, and all of a sudden the thing just stops, and you'd be stuck wherever you were. So I wound up changing engines on it. What a nightmare car. That car, I probably put 150,000 miles on. I finally sold it in Mississippi when I was down there. But anyways, having been in that situation with guns, very unique experience. People don't get to see that stuff, right? Not everybody. When I did live in Brooklyn, when I finally, got back on my feet and I was working and I was stopped surfing on people's couches, 2 doors down from me was a guy in the mafia. I can't say his name either, by the way. But
well, you got a lot of sketchy friends back in the day.
I don't know what's going on. I would see him. I'd say, hey, what's going on? He had a Rottweiler. Yeah. And he would walk it around, and he trained that dog to kill. He'd go, hey, Kev, hey, listen, can you do me a favor? I'm going to be out of town for a couple of days. Here's the key. Can you just, walk the dog, feed it, and take care of it, just kind of take care of it for me? I was like, sure, no big deal. What do you think's happening here? You're getting groomed, right? At like 2:00 in the morning one night. I'm like, who the hell's out here at 2:00 knocking on the door? Kev, listen, we got to take this Corvette to this Corvette dealer in Jersey. I go, dude, I got to be at work in like 5 hours. He goes, you're following me in the car. We're dropping this thing off. We'll come back. You will be in time. I'm like, holy cow. And then he started a conversation about, hey, listen, if you ever wanted to do something, we might be able to. I was like, whoa, stop right there. I'll watch the dog for you. I'm good. 4 years later, I went back to that neighborhood that I lived in to show my now wife where I lived. And I had told her about some of those things. And guess who's on the corner? That dude. And I'm going, hey. He goes, hey, what's up? I says, listen, I want to show my fiance where I lived and stuff. He goes, hey, give me a hug and, and all this stuff. And I said she was afraid to come out here. She goes, what are you talking about? This is my neighborhood. I can't make this shit up. Crazy stuff, right? There was a period of time that he actually brought me to his father's house in Ozone Park, Queens. John Gotti lived in Ozone Park, Queens. So did a lot of other mafia type people. I remember going with this individual to a particular restaurant in Ozone Park. We walk in there and they're going, hey, what do you want? And he goes, give me, the next thing they brought out like 40 entrees and we're like eating in a brown paper bag. I'm like, wow, man, this is insane. Again, what do you think's happening, right? This is all grooming. You look back and you could look at anything in your life of how people are grooming you to be in their life in some way. So you're asking about grooming. I'm telling you about how I was potentially groomed in many different aspects of my life, between sexual abuse, whether it was, illegal drugs and or what would you call that? Not gambling, illicit paying off of mobsters, I guess. Right?
The mob life.
Yeah, the mob life. But we took bags of money back to his father. And I remember walking into the house. He goes, hold on a second. So we go up to the door. We walk in, and his father's on the recliner, with all the way back, and the TV's on. And he shoots up, who the hell is this? This is Kevin. This is the guy I was telling you about.
It's Kevin, Pops. It's Kevin.
Oh, you. Okay, gotcha. You're the kid that lives next door that watches the dog. And I'm like, yeah. All right. And then he looks at me and goes, give me the money, and then get the F out of here. Right? I'll never forget this stuff. It's these things in life that make us who we are today, right?
Right.
Which really leads us to how this letter came about.
When did you realize that
I'm telling you things, lifestyle, and we're putting this stuff out here, by the way, and some of this stuff I've told people about. Some people have never heard this before. If my parents hear it, they've never heard this.
I love it. I love the raw and honesty, and I feel like I'm watching a movie through your words of your life.
People have told me I need to make a movie of my life. And I think of the movie with Joe Pesci.
Goodfellas?
Yeah, it's a Goodfellas.
Oh, that's an amazing movie.
I mean, I can just see that whole kind of process. Because you remember when he was driving and he was like in the car, and he's doing and he's looking up and he's, the helicopters are following him. You remember that scene?
Oh, yeah. I
remember being a little paranoid, totally being on cocaine and looking out the window going, what was that? You're like, I mean, it's crazy. I'm just glad that I had that stuff when I was much younger, when I had no real responsibility except to myself. Now, as an adult, I've learned things that I don't have to worry about getting stuck in or happening to me now.
How'd you transition then out of that, saying, hey, this isn't the life I want? This isn't the grooming for me.
Well, I was living in Brooklyn and I was taking the train. I was working for this organization called World Yacht. They had 5 big, huge boats that would take lunch and dinner cruises around Manhattan. I was actually working a couple of jobs at the same time. In between, I worked at Pizza Hut. I was the assistant director of food service for 4 years at an all-girls private school in Manhattan called the Chapin School, delivering pizzas at Original Pizza on Avenue L in Brooklyn. I mean, I was hustling.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're hustling.
I'm doing whatever I can. And I was standing on the corner. I had just got off the bus and I was on West 23rd Street. I'm standing in front of a grocery store called D'Agostino's. And this guy comes walking out and he's loading up this stuff. And I'm wearing my chef outfit. He goes, "Are you a chef?" And I look at him. I said, "What? It gave it away." He goes, "Here's my card. If you're interested and you're good, we could create a really good friendship." He was the chef for this private yacht that I would walk past every day going to work. What are the chances that I would have walked into that guy at that moment? That man was Francis. Francis was from Biloxi, Mississippi. I go to work, I get done, I go on there, I'm on this big private yacht. It's called the Cajun Princess. The Cajun Princess was a private yacht owned by the man who created Popeye's Famous Fried Chicken and Copeland's Restaurants. So I'm on this boat and I'm looking around. This was beautiful. What's the chances to be on a big private yacht? So this transition was to work with Francis. So Francis would do all these charters and we would do all these different private yachts and these charters. He goes, "Listen, this is what's going to happen. You're going to get paid this much. We're going to do this work on this day for 3-4 hours. If you're good, we'll see what happens." I knew what I was doing. I was good. Next thing you know, I quit that other stuff because I was getting paid like 3 times the money. So then I was working on the boats. That was so much fun. But at the end of the day, that started the next transition in my life where Francis goes, "Hey, Kev," because in his Biloxi, "Hey, Kev, we're going to go to Biloxi, Mississippi, and we're going to open a restaurant." I've never been out of New York. I've been to Florida, but I've never been to Mississippi. I packed up all my stuff and moved to Mississippi. We took this 100-foot yacht, Francis, brought it down to Mississippi. We dock it next to the casino. They have no food. We are working like crazy. Back then I had hair. I looked at him, I go, "Francis, I got to get a haircut, dude. I mean, you got to give me some time here to go get a haircut." He goes, "Kevin, I'll cut your hair." I go, "You're not cutting my hair. I need somebody to cut my hair." Weeks go on. I'm working like 7 days a week. He knows my work ethic. He knows that I'll run through fire. But it came to the point where I was like, "Dude, if I can't leave and at least get a haircut, I'm gone. I'm finished." He goes, "You'll never do it." I go, "Tomorrow, I'm going to get a haircut." He goes, "If you don't show up, you're done." I go, "Okay." And I walked away. We're still friends today. I still talk to him. Another little piece of my life that I learned things. And my father had told me about Francis. You have to remember, people need you. You don't need them. Again, all these years, what are people doing? They're grooming me, right? So it was another part of the grooming. It's very interesting how this grooming word came into play in my life. There's no question. I don't regret any of that. I love it to death. When I stopped working for Francis, I found another private yacht to work on that just happened to be there. The Cajun Princess, it was owned by a man who lived in New Orleans. So we're not far from New Orleans. I drive to the Cajun Princess and I see Doug. Dougie, as his name was. Dougie's family, have you ever heard of Mount Olive pickles?
Yeah, absolutely.
His family was the family that makes Mount Olive product. I say, "Hey, Dougie, listen, are you looking to hire anybody to be a chef?" He goes, "No, but I do know somebody that is, and they're right where you are." "Really? Bay St. Louis?" He goes, "Yeah, the Coca-Cola King." You don't just go and say, "Hey, I'm here. I want to apply for a job on a boat." It doesn't work like, you got to really know somebody. So, of course, I connected with that individual. I show up. I give Mrs. Thompson my resume, and she looks at it, and she goes, "You worked at the Chapin School? We're going to hire you." We're getting ready to do a whole bunch of catering jobs for Senator Trent Lott, who's looking to run for the President of the United States. We're very politically connected. And I said, "Okay, I don't know who he is, but okay." I said, "What are we doing?" "We're going up Mississippi River." "Okay, great." I'm going up the Mississippi River. I'm doing these catering jobs. They go, "You're our guy. We have never had a chef like you. We just need you to know the crew is not going to like you." I said, "I already know that." It's all good. So we're cruising around. We're doing what we're doing. We go all the way up to Maine. In that process, the crew is leaving me at grocery stores with no way to get back with all the groceries for the boat. They were doing everything in their power to get rid of me.
Why?
Because they thought that they knew how to cook.
Oh, so they wanted to be
They did not want anybody raining on their parade. And they had a parade. So it was the captain, his wife, the other crew members. I've watched Below Deck once or twice. And while that is drama-driven based on reality TV, this was truly my life that was happening where these people just were trying to get rid of me. And I was told that this would happen. So there became a period where you were in Atlantic City, New Jersey. They couldn't get rid of me. They couldn't figure out how to get rid of me. The captain's wife attacks me while I'm on the phone talking to my mother on a payphone. And the first mate, Jeff, is standing there as the witness. And so I'm fighting off her attacking me. She's going, he's hitting me. He's hitting me. And I wasn't doing anything. That's the last straw. I can deal with all the drama, emotional stuff. But physical, I mean, they're sleeping like next to me in these other rooms in the cruise quarters. Who knows what would happen? And
Right.
You can't lock the door. I go back onto the boat and I said, Mr. Thompson, I can deal with all the drama. I can deal with all the issues, but now it's violent. See that hotel right there? You're going to put me up in that hotel. You're going to pay me a year's salary. I'm never going to say anything about this to anybody. And then I'm out of here. And I'm packing my shit up right now. And he goes, whoa. Tell me what happened. Told him what happened. Go to your stateroom. Hang out there. I'll be down in a few minutes. I never saw that girl again.
Really?
She was immediately removed from the boat.
So you stayed?
I did stay. Mr. Thompson said, I need you to just take it easy. Who do you know that's a captain? Remember the other captain that helped bring the other boat down to Mississippi? His name was Mark. Mark was doing the dangerous fisherman things from Alaska. I called Mark up and I say, hey, Mark, how would you like to get back into the yachting world? And he goes, that'd be great. Mr. Thompson sends him a ticket, tells him how much he's going to pay him. He comes on board. Before he left, because he knew he was going to bring new staff, he says to this woman, hey, listen, I'm going to need new staff. You're here in Alaska. I know you just broke up with my brother and need to get away. Here's the opportunity to be at least making some good money working on this boat. That woman is my now wife, by the way.
Get out of here.
That's how I met my wife. Mark, the new captain, comes on in D.C. I had told Mr. Thompson, I said, when are you going to tell the current captain that the new captain's coming? He goes, watch this. I'm going to have the old captain pick up the new captain at the airport. And I watched this unfold. And I remember the new captain coming. Next thing you know, the old captain was gone. Like this all happened like...
It's karma.
Yeah, total karma, right? So now the rest of the crew is going, who the hell is this Kevin Chef dude? I just think the owners had had enough. They don't want to be dealing with this drama. First of all, these people lived full-time on this boat. You know, we're having political people coming on and off. We have a lot of their family coming on and off.
Yeah, you don't need that drama on that.
No, they don't want to be worrying about, you know, somebody maybe screaming in the background or killing somebody with a knife in the galley. Who knows what? So Mark comes on board. Sarah comes on board in North Carolina somewhere. And then I never factored in my life of being a chef. I was in Sutherland Magazine because of that boat. Never, ever thought that anything I was looking to conquer in life had a woman involved. It changed everything. And I realized, wow, I've got to change what I'm doing. I gave notice and we jumped ship. I owned nothing. I owned a Harley. That was it. We didn't own forks. We didn't own knives. We didn't have plates. We didn't have literally nothing. The shirt on our backs. When I came back after working in the yachting industry, I went back to the Mariner 3, the owners, and it said, hey, listen, I'm going to ask my wife to marry me. Can we go out and take the Mariner 3 out in front of the Statue of Liberty? And sure enough, that's where I asked my wife to marry me, in front of the Statue of Liberty.
Let's fire her up.
Yeah, exactly.
Kevin needs to propose.
Yeah. I was driving the boat to the Statue of Liberty. I shouldn't have been driving the boat. I'm not a captain. But man, it was crazy. Listen, I've done a lot of things with those people. When you work holidays, weekends for years, and you become friendly with them, when you go back and say, I can call them tomorrow and say, hey, listen, I'm going to be in town. Can I stay on the boat for 2 nights? And they go, sure, no problem. And I could sleep on that boat. When you work with people and you help them and you're a good person, people will always welcome you back into their home. And I'm working at a nuclear power plant, making the food, running the food service.
Are you married to Sarah at that point?
No, we were engaged to be married. We were trying to figure out what we were going to do. Sarah was working retail at a mall. I'm working at Indian Point Nuclear Power Plant.
So how long did you last at the nuclear power plant?
I would say it was probably a couple of years that I was still doing that kind of stuff. And then Sarah, since she was from Colorado, we were planning the wedding in Colorado. Let's just move out to Colorado. So when we moved out to Colorado, I did some, just regular old sales.
So you kind of left the food industry when you moved to Colorado, and that's where
I got into the company that was on 60 Minutes. Got married.
So now you're in this whole new industry. You let
credit card processing. Yeah. Totally walked away from food.
Right. People are grooming you, but you're sitting there realizing they need me.
Yeah.
So when did you finally realize, and what was the step that you said, look, they need me. I don't need them. I'm going to start my own.
It was 2001, being here for about a year and a half. The man that I had come here to help start up this business that I was doing up in Colorado. So I was running a boiler room. I was training people to sell. I was doing everything I was doing up in Colorado. I was just doing it here, and I was getting paid more. But the individual that I had known decided he wanted to sue the merchant service provider that we were sending business to because he wasn't happy with the contract. Well, I could see the writing on the wall. What do you think they're going to do? They're not going to keep paying us to sue them. So they cut us off. But I knew that was coming. And I said, I'm just not really happy in this situation. I'm doing all the work. He's collecting all the money. I need to do it on my own. And that's exactly when I realized I didn't need anybody else. And I've never worked for anybody else since 2001. It's all me.
I mean, you're obviously successful now, but when you were on those yachts, did you dream or aspire looking at these people and go, I want to be this successful?
Absolutely. I always did. When I worked at the Chapin School, all the kids that went there, it was like $30,000 a year back in the late 80s just for them to go to kindergarten. And I was like, man, look at all these very successful people. How do they afford this kind of stuff? I would love to be able to do this for my family one day. But while working in the private yachting industry and working for these very wealthy individuals, and you're making food for them, and it's time to make some chocolate chip cookies, and you go sit down with some chocolate chip cookies and you look at them and you go, how did you do this? They got nobody else to talk to. I learned business from multi-gazillionaires that literally were sitting in this big, huge yacht I'm working on, and they taught me a couple of things. One was, this was their family was the original distributors of Coca-Cola in 1906, and what they did was every time somebody opened a Coke, they made money, right? So they had Coca-Cola bottling plants. Mr. Thompson also made money on a lot of land. So that was the other thing. Residual income, land. Two things the most successful people in the world are making money on. Anybody could trade hours for time, right? We could go to work, get paid XYZ dollars, and then you go home, no responsibility. Or you could put in the time and effort listening to what successful people have done and get money while you're sleeping. And I'm not talking about multi-level marketing. This is actual work of creating relationships in the credit card processing world that when people are processing credit cards, right now, we are still getting paid. Residual income helps obviously pay for things. The margins are very small, so you have to have a lot of clients. And so you got to handle and take care of people more. I learned from people in the yachting industry how to run business, how to identify specific things. And so I just took some of those small principles and applied them in my life when the opportunity arose.
When I asked you to write your last letter, what went through your mind?
I actually resisted for a little bit. I was trying to envision what would I say. I think that it was very difficult. I think I put down a lot of the basics. You've asked me questions. I've had many avenues to get to the answer to your questions because there's been so many things that have happened within my own life. We never really had a lot of money as a kid. So, but my father provided for us, and so did my stepfather, and so did my mother and my stepmother. I grew up in situations that everybody did the best of their abilities and we were happy. I never really saw anybody unhappy, or at least nobody told me they were unhappy. I don't think they were even unhappy. Maybe I should ask.
Well, I'd love if you'd read your letter for us.
I don't know if I want to read it. That's the thing. I think somebody else should read it.
That's you reading it.
Yeah. So when I was actually writing this letter, I was with my daughter in Colorado. opened up the iPad and I said, where can you start notes? I've never done notes like in your iPad. And I wrote, today is the day I knew would come. And nothing else came to mind. I picked that iPad back up another 4 hours later, and I couldn't figure out what I was going to say after that. I got a phone call from a family member stating that my uncle had passed away. And he was, in my eyes, was the most successful business person in my family. I didn't know any other business owners in my family. And that's when I was able to start finishing this. So there's a reason of how this came about. You could think how you want to put things together, but this truly came about in a unique way for me. Today is the day I knew would come. I didn't know when or how, but like everyone else, here it is. People say their lives flash before their eyes. That is because everything that has led up to this point was from everyone I have ever met, which leads me to having to thank everyone for a wonderful life. There have been ups and downs, but with each passing day, I tried to learn something new. Over the course of my life, I've been a sponge. I've gathered enough information from everyone and everything. A little piece of that encounter has been stored in my brain to make me the man that I've become today. As people search for that single magic pill to lose weight, or they may read a single book and magically transform themselves into everything and anything in that book, there is no magic pill and no single book that can change us. If you want to be successful, hang with successful people. There's no magic to that. Just logic and understanding, and become a sponge. There is no answer to life. There is only a beginning and an end. It is what you do in that period of time that will leave the legacy of the person you are. We have the choice to make what we want of our lives, and I choose to leave the world a better place by sharing what was gifted to me. So today, I want to thank all of you that I have come in contact with for a wonderful life.
What do you want Kevin's legacy to be?
I want people to think Kevin did everything in his power to help others whenever that time comes. I don't want them to go, that guy was such a taker. I don't want to be looked at as a taker. I don't think people understand where I've been and what I've done to become the successful business owner that I am. It's very tough sometimes. You could be out and about and people look at, oh my God, I wish I was like rich like you. I go, I'm not rich. I'm rich in knowledge. And if I could give that knowledge to others to help them better themselves, well then I'm absolutely rich.
Do you think we as a society are willing to help others?
I think it's an inertness within ourselves to help others no matter what. It's that level of how much you're willing to put yourself out there to help others is what makes that individual who they are. There are people that can give you money and that makes them happy. Hey, let's write a check for $1 million. Let's give that guy $1 million for that organization. They're going to build this wing. It makes them feel good, right? That's how those people work. And then there's the people that are out there literally digging the ditch, free time on the weekend, and they worked all week in their accounting job or whatever job they may have. I'm not trying to put people in a box. There are people that work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and they after work will have some sort of give back in their own mind. And it could be working the arborist thing in the city square, and they're going to help dig flowers, and it gives them relaxation. It doesn't cost them anything to do that. And then they see the finished product. They have a sense of satisfaction. They have a sense of purpose. And that's where I think my purpose is to help people. And in helping people, I've become enriched with knowledge that I can pass along to others to help enrich them.
How do you measure success?
That's a really good question. I've asked people, I go, when is it okay to be successful? Is it a measure of success? When do people become successful? I'm going to tell you when I felt that I was successful. My goal was to have my wife home where I could financially keep her in that position. So I knew in my brain that I was successful, at least to myself, when my wife no longer had to be at a job listening to the bickering bullshit of all the drama at her job. That's when I felt that I was successful.
She's just got to listen to all the bickering and bullshit that you bring at home.
Now she's got to listen to me. I just woke up. This morning. I just woke up. Why are you just talking? You wake up and you're... Blah, 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 blah. I can't help it. My mind never stops. Mark Cuban has said, you have to work like everyone is trying to steal your clients all the time. When I heard that for the first time, that's been my mantra for everything I've done. I've only told this story to a few people, but I'm going to tell it to you. I don't really care.
It's between us.
It's between us. When I was in Mississippi with Francis, there were 3 people that were important to the function of the restaurant. Francis, myself, and I had one of my best friends. His name was Kevin as well. Kevin worked with Francis and I in New York. When Francis asked me to go to Mississippi, I looked at Kevin and I go, hey, Kevin, we'll go together. And he goes, yeah, what else am I going to do? So Kevin came. Now, Mark, the captain of the boat who had to drive this boat down to Mississippi, in Mississippi, when you have a boat next to a casino, you still had to have a captain all the time. So Mark, the captain, Kevin, my friend, and myself were all living together in one apartment. Mark, he had Florida plates on his car. I had New York plates on my car. Kevin had New York plates on his car. One day, I'm driving back from work, went over the bridge in Bay St. Louis, and the police pulled me over. I stayed in the car, didn't get out or anything, waiting for the police officer to come up. Nobody came. Another cop car comes. Another cop car comes. So now there's 3 police officers, and one comes up to the window, and he says, license, registration, insurance card. And I give him my driver's license from New York. I give him a expired registration from a year ago on this white Pontiac Grand Am that I was not paying $277 a month for. I was afraid everything was just going to come unglued at that point. I think I was behind like 3 months on the car. I was like, in Mississippi, they don't know where I'm at, right? Then how are they going to catch me? They're not going to be able to take this car away from me. Anyways, they pull me over, and this police officer says, I need you to step out of the vehicle. And I said, well, what's going on? While I don't have as much of a Brooklyn accent right now, I was only out of Brooklyn for about a year, and my Brooklyn accent was probably a little thicker, and these were police officers from Mississippi, and I didn't know what was going on. One thing my father told me when I said, hey, I'm going to go to Mississippi, he told me, he says, be very careful when you go south and you tell people that you're Jewish. So I was like, I don't know what's going on. So many things are going through my head. So I get out and I go to the back, and next thing you know, this guy's frisking me. Another guy comes with a dog. The guy's frisking me. These dogs are trampling through. They come out, and the dog goes back into the car. And I go, what's going on here? And he goes, we've been watching you. And I said, watching me for what? He goes, well, first of all, your license is good, but your registration's expired and your insurance is expired. So we're going to have to impound your car. But we had the dog check it out because you have drugs in your car. And I said, what drugs? So he opens up the little thing there, and he goes, right there. And there was like little roaches. Francis and I would occasionally have a little bit, whatever. I totally forgot that there was something there. Next thing you know, I'm being photographed and they're towing my car. And
this is real life My Cousin Vinny stuff right here.
Absolutely. It was totally the 2 Utes. And then they said, listen, we've been watching you guys because, you got New York plates and this other guy's got Florida plates. We know where you live. And then when we had run your plates, we were just investigating you. I'm like, holy cow, man, you guys really have a lot of time on your hands here. I go, listen, I'm just a couple months behind on payments and there's nothing else going on here. He goes, well, you're going to have to tell that to the judge. I'm sitting in a little square box. They go, you get a call, so make a call. I call Mark, and I go, Mark, you got to get your ass down here. I was screwed. I was like, what? Mark comes down. I post bond. I can't remember how much it was. I don't remember. I didn't have any money. I was there for like 4 to 6 hours. So I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? Francis tells me about a woman who is an attorney down there. He says, go see this lady. And I go see her. I said, hey, I'm here. Can you help me out with this? And She says, yeah, we can make this go away. I go, I wonder how? And she says, don't worry about that. So she says, it's going to cost you X amount of dollars. I don't remember how much it was. Whatever it was too much, and I didn't have it. I gave her everything I had, and I think I made some payments. I don't remember. I was just like happy somebody was going to help me. Turns out her father was like part of the mafia mob or something down south, somehow or another. She was able to figure out ways to help convince the police that I was not anybody of concern, and I got the entire thing expunged. Nothing on my record. Nothing ever happened. Nothing.
Hey, you're Kevin. You're that kid from up New York, right?
Oh my gosh. Literally, I have been in strange situations. And I'll tell you that every time that it gets to the point where it could have gone over the deep end, like what if at that point they were going, like I didn't have the right attorney, I could have gone to jail. What if when I was with that guy that was in the drug deals, like maybe they got raided at the time, I just happened to be there, I would have gone to jail. Maybe if I was at the wrong time with the mafia dude at his father's house and the FBI was listening and who's this new guy? Next thing you know, I'm being arrested and thrown away. You're going to be an informant for us or something. Who knows, right? All these crazy things have happened that I could have. But I'll tell you, I think through my life, I've been able to realize there's a point. Whoa, wait a minute. Okay, I got to stop and I've got to redirect. And that's where I think I have all these life experiences that have helped me make some of the right choices. Have I pushed the envelope to a point? Probably. But I've learned to not make those mistakes again and try not to be groomed. I hope that it kind of explains a lot of things, but I've only told a few people about that. Now everybody knows that I was pulled over and there was some little drugs in I smoked at that time. I was smoking.
You said there were roaches.
Yeah, there were roaches.
Bugs.
They were, little roaches, little bugs. Yeah.
Kevin, in your adventure of life, you've had these circumstances where you've almost gone down the wrong path, but something kicks in. What kicks in and what advice would you give to somebody who might be like you and has the possibility of going down a wrong path like that?
Have you ever been driving down the road? You're on a road you've never driven. And as you're rounding that turn, there's that, like, am I going too fast? And there's that weird feeling of, I need to slow down. And I have to realize that I'll be safe now. I think everyone should just slow down a little bit. When that uncomfortable feeling comes around, step back and look at it and realize, is this the right path that I want to go?
Are they luck circumstances then? Do you feel like it was?
Man, I don't know. I don't know if I believe in luck. I think it's just opportunities that turn into good things or bad things. And luckily for me, I don't believe in luck, but in this instance, it was a good thing. Losing job. I've told my parents, I don't know how many times, they had a bitter divorce. I wouldn't be the person I am today if it wasn't for that divorce. I don't know where I'd be. I don't know. So, divorce. The transition from being sexually abused as a child was when I said grace at dinner. That transition. So Jesus saved me. So when I say Jesus saved me, it's a fact. It's not something I'm making up. It's literally, I was wanting to pray to Jesus for thanking him for the food that put it on the table that day. My stepmother and father are going, wait a minute, where'd you hear that shit from? That was their, wait a minute. They let me say grace. I remember just like that, I was instantly living with them. What are the things that catapult me away from the potential bad things? Everybody thinks that there's some magical pill that people, all of a sudden, they're just some rich dude. Nobody knows what the tribulations are, the trials that happen to get to where they are. And this is where, like today, in society today, people look at people that might have something better than them, whether it's money, whether it's a car, whether it's their rings, their jewelry, whatever it may be. They know nothing of how those people were able to get there. And they don't take the time to reflect on themselves to figure out ways to make it happen. They want everything given to them. If I was poor and didn't have any money and lived in a shack, I would be trying to do everything in my power to change that circumstance. And that's what I did years ago, because we were all born with nothing. You make of what your life becomes by doing specific things throughout your life. If you want to help others, help others. If you don't want to help people, don't complain of what you don't have. And don't put down others because of what they have worked hard to have, but making the person that they've become because of their family and the bits and pieces of the connections and all the things that happened. I'm happy that I was almost a drug dealer. I'm happy that I almost went to jail. I'm happy that all of the things that we've talked about today happened. They made the man that I am today, knowing that I'm a good person. I still live in the same house that I bought 17 years ago. Small little house. I know that if I lost everything today, I could still be in that house. I'm always afraid to lose everything. So, maybe that's why I stay in that house. I don't know.
Well, Kevin, I can't thank you enough for being a guest today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Well, thank you. Obviously, being interviewed by 7 times, it's 7 times, right? You're like this god in the photography world for the military, right?
Used to be.
Well, it's people say, you got to stop saying you were a former chef. Once a chef, always a chef, right?
I like that.
You are always a photographer. You're always a service member, right? Air Force.
Absolutely.
So, did you stop being an Air Force person? No.
Nope.
It's ingrained in you.
My blood will run blue.
There it is.
Thank you so much for being here, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you to our guest, Kevin Hodes, for reminding us to learn from every event in life and understand it's the things that make us. Kevin's books are available on Amazon, and you can follow him on Instagram @SwipeIt. As we approach the holidays, please take the time to do for others, whether that is with your time or writing a check. Remember, we all have something we can share to lift others. Last Letters is hosted by Jeremy Locke, produced by Scott Repberg, original score by Michael J. Leslie. Special thank you to the Blinded American Veterans Foundation, Air Power Foundation, Stars of Hope USA, Glasshouse Strategies. Tune in every Tuesday for a new Last Letter. Thank you for listening.